Hi there, and welcome to the Hero Arts YouTube channel. I'm Jeanette Cosson, and today I'm sharing how to create an interlocking shaker card featuring the Hero Arts wood frame infinity dies and the You're Beautiful stamp set. Let's start off with a dreamy watercolor background. The process is so simple, if you think it all, you're overdoing it. Generously apply color to a smooth bristle cardstock panel with a Zig Clean Color Real Brush marker in light blue. These markers are a go-to for me, and this particular color is headed to my replacement list. And although it's getting dry, there's still plenty of color for this process. Use the wood frame dies as you go along for a guide to area coverage. Add cornflower blue to the bottom outside corners. With a juicy paintbrush, wet the entire colored area. I'm using a silver black velvet brush in either a size 6 or 8, I can't remember. I think it's an 8 though. But really, it's irrelevant for this task. The colors will begin to move and blend together with very little effort. In fact, the less fiddling, the better. Bristol paper won't hold up to much scrubbing, and the natural movement of color is actually quite fascinating. Once you're good, tap on a few water droplets. The water droplets will push the pigment to the side and enhance the look of movement and detail. Generally, I prefer to air dry with this technique for the most dramatic results. But today, I've used a heat tool to speed the process along a touch. Be cautious when using a heat tool over a craft mat or a cutting mat. It can cause warping. Your best bet is to use a wooden cutting board, masonite, or something along those lines. Set panel aside to finish drying. Off camera, I've gone ahead and stamped a couple of flowers from the Hero Arts You're Beautiful stamp set in black dye ink and clear embossed them and fussy cut them. While the Hero Arts black dye ink holds up well for watercoloring, my impatience sometimes gets the best of me, and by heat embossing, I can color the petals adjacent to each other without fear of color bleeding across the line. I've colored the petals with zigs in lemon yellow and added the color named yellow for a deeper shadow at the base and where one petal tucks behind another. Olive green and light green make up the leaf shades. A touch of peach pink for the accent flowers and stamens. Place the wood frame infinity dies over the dry watercolor panel and trace the outside of the rectangle. Repeat for smaller die and then trim an 1/8 inch or so to the inside of the pencil drawn line. Once cut, match to the die to check for your accuracy. Next, die cut 2 wood frame infinity dies in Hero Arts Dove White cardstock. I've slid the Hero Arts acetate just up and to the right and then trimmed the overhang to make it just slightly smaller than the outside perimeter of the frame. Repeat for the second frame. Align frame die cuts face up on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch, also known as A2, Dove White cardstock panel. Snip the top of the smaller frame so that it can be tucked behind the larger frame to create an interlocking effect. Add a bead of Hero Arts precision glue to the lower frame where it overlaps and then flip the unit face down. I like to use the grid of a craft mat as a reference to keep the frame straight. Add another dot of glue under the snipped smaller frame to secure. Dry fit the larger piece of acetate and cut out the lower left corner where the designs create a secondary rectangle so that when finished, we only have one layer of acetate. The frame thickness is generous, so it's an easy snip. Adhere that larger piece of acetate in place, and then the smaller. Next, split foam tape as necessary and add to the back of the frames over the acetate to create depth for our sequins. Be sure to nest the edges right up next to each other so there are no gaps for tiny sequins to make their escape. I like to complete the first layer and then stagger my seams for the second layer to lessen any chance of escapees. Pour in Hero Arts icicle sequins into each of the 3 wells. Not too few, not too many, but just whatever looks great to your eye. Carefully remove the foam tape release paper and adhere the trimmed watercolor panels in place. Trim overlapping corner, or don't. It doesn't really matter actually, and it isn't necessary. It just cuts down on a bit of bulk. Add precision glue around perimeter and throughout, and then adhere to the Dove White 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch A2 cardstock panel. Add 2 layers of foam tape to the back of each flower, making them match the height of the frames. Trim stems as necessary and tuck in place. White detail heat emboss the sentiment on pitch black cardstock, again from the Your Beautiful stamp set, and adhere in place with foam tape for dimension, or flat works too if you'd like to keep a lower profile. Again, use the lines on the cutting mat as a guide for straightness. Adhere your completed shaker panel to a folded card base. I went with a top folder from Hero Arts, but Hero Arts also has side folders if that's more your speed. Add a few ombre sunshine sequins to bump up the yellow sparkle factor. Voila! Interlocking shaker card. If this project has inspired you to create, or anytime you create with Hero Arts, be sure to tag us on social media. We'd love to see what you're up to. Enjoy your week and happy crafting!